So, welcome to the whirlwind again. Hopefully by now you've had a chance to check out the film. It really has been a life-changing kind of experience, and I say that for me because having the names of those ancestors and being able to trace my family tree and my family's presence back 7 generations has been a really significant gift, I feel. Just having the names and then also being able to connect with some other writers and researchers who had done work around our family's lineage and story, including Brian Prince, who wrote a book called A Shadow on the Household. He's a Black Canadian writer who has put together phenomenal research about Canadians and how they came there, if they came as fugitive slaves from the United States, and then the communities that they built and the things that they've done. Really phenomenal research, as well as William Still and some other researchers who have written maybe not as extensively as Brian Prince, but just pulling all of those pieces of research together, which has helped to give me context around my family story. So it's not just a list of names, and it's not just a tree or death certificates and birth certificates or paper. It's really rich with story and context, and what the experience has done for me personally is kind of collapse time. And when I say that, I mean that it's not like it's really not that long ago. I mean, it's 3 generations. Of course, some of the stories and things take place even in the 1800s. But when you look at the span of a generation and people's lifetimes, it really isn't that far removed. And so I find like I had the synergies that were going on in my own life, which actually put me in the place to participate in the creation of the documentary. I'm also finding synergies with things that my ancestors did and experienced, especially in Washington, D.C., which is where I was also born, in my present and current life. And so it's been an interesting shift of kind of thinking about my own experience as multidimensional and dynamic, in the sense that it kind of becomes a continuation of what was experienced in the past, what our ancestors experienced, and then how that also translates down the generations to things that are happening in our current and modern lives, and the things that are similar and then the things that are different. And so for me, it's been just a continued exploration of my own self and my own life, but also through the lens and through the information that I've been able to gather around my family's history and the entire lineage, and then also what I've experienced throughout my life within my family, inside, outside, and then placing it in the wider world, for me has been just really, just a phenomenal experience. And so I just wanted to share a bit more the other things that have unfolded, because we've also had the opportunity to connect with the other participants in the film around their experience. Of course, in the film, you'll find out that we actually were able to connect with Nile, who is descended from another part of the lineage of the Weems that actually ultimately settled on the West Coast, and we didn't know him and didn't have those continued communications and connections about the family lineage. So that was a powerful connection, as well as connecting with Scott and Seth and their stories throughout the generations that have influenced the lives that they live today, and just having this sense of camaraderie, probably mostly around the experience of being in the film together and discovering that our ancestors had connected on some level in this particular space, but then also exploring synergies of our current lives and our current perspectives and how we can still be supportive or encouraging or engaged in each other's lives in whatever way that makes sense today. And so, yeah, it's just been a really powerful experience for me. Many things are still continuing to unfold and inspiring me to continue to dig and research and find those pockets of information and connecting with family members that I hadn't necessarily connected with in a while or on that level, and just discovering even more rich resources and photographs and little stories and things that people had that are so significant now that I have a foundation for building out this tree and pulling from this wealth of resources in the sense of information about who we are as a people, specifically to my family, but then that, that always reverberates out. And so it's a feeling of wholeness, and a feeling of completion that is indescribable and at the same time very valuable to me and to what I'm visioning and projecting going forward. And so I just wanted to share that. I know people get tied up and involved in trying to discover genealogy. Sometimes it's not very easy. Sometimes there aren't clear paths, or the information isn't so easy to come by. In my experience, I've been fortunate to have it come to me and then to begin to discover the connections and how it's unfolding almost organically in a way that has been very meaningful and significant, almost as if it's time for you to have this information. It's time for you to move the ball forward with this legacy and this history and this heritage into your current life and going forward to leave it for future generations. One of the things that evolved as a result of my participation in the Railroad Ties documentary was that I was invited to the Sundance Film Festival to participate in its debut. That was a phenomenal experience for me. It was the best birthday present I have received thus far. And it opened some doors for me as far as being able to participate in a panel discussion about the film, but also just in general about our collective history and how we have made and continue to make each other's history come true. I mean, we are integrally a part of each other's stories. And as a writer, I've long ago made peace with the fact that our stories, even though we feel like it's our stories, but it's not just our stories, it's bigger than that. We write the stories, or we're compelled to tell the stories because they actually have the potential to influence and impact other people. They're our stories, but they're also our stories to share. And so this entire experience has been one of really bringing that part forward, really understanding and having an even deeper appreciation of the intertwined nature of our stories and our history, and how we are, all of us, a part of each other's reality in one way or another, especially if there's a direct connection in some way. But even if not, that how we become a part of each other's world and experience. And so being able to participate at Sundance was a phenomenal experience, and actually meet Henry Louis Gates Jr. and have the opportunity to meet and spend time with Lisa Elsie from Ancestry, and Melissa McCullum, who was the historian at Plymouth Congregational Church, as well as, my cousins and the other Sacha Jenkins, the director, the other members of the crew and production, was just a phenomenal experience. And so anyway, I just wanted to share a bit more about my experience with Railroad Ties. I invite you to like and subscribe. There will be more information coming forth of other things that are unfolding, have unfolded as a result of my participation in this documentary. And I look forward to sharing more of that with you.